6:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order. My name is Meg McGrath-Smith, and I am the chair of the Committee for Charter on Rules. And to my right is City Councilor Linda Vacan. To my left is City Council woman and City Council President Tessa Murphy-Ramboletti. And they are both on the Charter and Rules Committee with me. In chambers, we also have Councilor Patty Devine and Councilor Mike Sullivan and Councilor Carmen Acasio. So thank you for joining us as well. We're going to jump right in. Our first agenda item. Can I have a motion to take item 1 off the table?
Motion to take item 1 off the table.
Second. We can just do a voice vote, clearly, right? Because we're all here. Yes. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So item 1, this is a returner from several meetings from Murphy-Ramboletti and Jourdain. Ordered the City Council adopt a rule to establish a 2-year legislative term. Where any orders pending in committee or not acted on by the end of the legislative term must be refiled at the start of the subsequent legislative term. Is Solicitor Bissonnette on with us yet? Because the piece
not yet.
Okay, because the piece that we were waiting on for this was his guidance on how to adjust the rules in order to do that, and what was the right move to make in terms of doing this in the best possible way. And if we need to, we can always table and pick it back up if he
I do
joins
want
us
to.
later.
I definitely want them to weigh in on some language. I'm still not totally sure how we do this without conflicting with the charter.
Well, also conflicting with issues that we have around just requirements around timing. If something is in a petition process that has a certain guidelines for timing, we can't just say that it's up, right?
Yeah.
We actually have to continue that. So
So I had a note that we were waiting for legal language.
I agree.
So,
Yeah. Okay. So
motion to table item 1.
second.
We can always take it up later on if he's able to join us. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 2.
Motion to take item 2 off the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the piece here, and I had the language, I had talked to Solicitor Bissonnette about this earlier, and his suggestion for the language for this, because that was, again, the piece from item 2 as well, is ordered the City Council amend its rules to create a vice president position in City Council. And the piece we're waiting on was just clearer language for how we should actually move it forward and change it in our rules. So the language, this would be for 3B. Upon the election of the president, the City Council shall then elect a vice president by majority vote, who shall serve as presiding officer in the absence of the president, and shall represent the City Council in all the administrative duties of the position. That's the language that I received. I think there's a certain elegance to it. It's simple. Initially, we were going back and forth on if it made sense to sort of name specific pieces, like attending ceremonial events, and then it just made sense to just make it broader, to be all of the administrative duties of the position, given that we want to make sure they have the flexibility to step into the role if needed. But it's important to make sure that it's not in the line of succession. That's the most important part, is making that very clear.
So we don't have that in front of us. We just have the original legal language that was provided
Okay.
with the charter.
Let me look at that really quick. No, and when we talked about this, we said that this was not what we had been looking
Right.
for.
Exactly.
I think what I would like to do is just to make a motion to revise Rule 3B using that language.
Can you read the language again? Because I don't think
Sure.
we have it in front of us at all.
No, I don't.
Okay.
And then maybe it could be sent to all of us.
Yep. Okay.
So you said Rule 3B?
So 3B, under the election of the president, upon the election of the president, the City Council shall then elect a vice president by majority vote, who shall serve as presiding officer in the absence of the president, and shall represent the city council and all the administrative duties of the position as may occur during that absence.
So does that include serving as the mayor? Or is that
No.
reserved to the charter?
That's reserved to the charter.
Okay.
There's a.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify, because we were back and forth.
Because
about
the
it.
goal is to do something that is specific enough that it can just live within our rules for our specific purpose here versus it having a different meaning related to the succession,
Right.
which is in the charter.
And thinking of a temporary situation.
Yes. I see Solicitor Bissonette has joined us. Mike, do you want to say anything else about that language that you sent us for the vice president position or role?
I think it's concise enough that it makes it clear that this is not a line of succession appointment, which could only be done via the charter. Internal to the council, you can have this sort of assistant executive officer, if you will. So I think that serves this purpose quite nicely. Fits in the rules under, I think, 3B.
Solicitor Bissonette, do you think that it makes sense to, I mean, we all in this room here, have heard what you have said, and we have a collective understanding that this is not connected to the line of succession because it would go against what we have in the charter. I wonder for successive councils if it makes sense for us to name it in the rule.
It always makes it clearer if it's the more specificity, the tighter the box. So if you say that the vice president shall not be in the line of succession for mayor, that's pretty specific.
Yeah.
But as a matter of law, there's no provision that would allow the vice president to take over any other position other than what you state in your rules. This position only exists within the confines of the city council.
What do we think about amending it to include that the vice president shall not be in the line of succession for the mayor? Just for clarity's sake. Thoughts about that? Yes.
So does Jeffrey have this language that he can send to us? I just like to see things.
Yeah,
I'm writing it down.
yeah. I haven't seen it either.
Maybe you could forward it to us?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll read it one more time. And then, yes, I will make sure that I send it to you and to Jeffrey. So 3B, under the election of the president, the city council shall then elect a vice president by majority vote who shall serve as presiding officer in the absence of the president and shall represent the city council and all the administrative duties of the position as may occur during that absence. The vice president shall not be in the line of succession for the mayor. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the language? Or do we want to wait?
I mean, as I'm reading it here, it makes sense. And it does answer some of my concerns about whether or not this conflicts with the charter. I do agree that we should add, the clarification that it's not adding a line of succession to replace the mayor. It's strictly a position that only exists within this area of the council. It's not beyond that. So it's just hard for me to make a motion to approve language that I would make a motion to approve the language that was proposed. I can't repeat it.
Yeah, if I may.
Yep. Yes, Linda Bacon.
So if we are to move this forward, and I personally won't vote on an legal language I can't see, but if we are going to move it forward, how will it interact with the senior member rule?
Yeah, so one of the questions I think that I have is, do we in Rule 8D replace senior member with VP? That's one of my questions. How does it interact? How do we want it to interact?
Well, the thing of it is, I think we have to take up that rule to deal with it. If we're going to change one and it affects another, I think we have to package them and address them.
Yep. What do you think about it? Do you want to shift Rule 8D to change that from senior member to vice president? Or do we want to distinguish it in some way and say that the vice president role is only for longer absences versus single absences? Right now, the senior member steps in if there is an absence that is kind of unforeseen, right, by the president, or a one-off miss of a meeting they can't attend.
Right.
Mr. Bissonette, I see your hand.
Notes, I guess. One is that there's no time pressure on this as it's currently laid out. It wouldn't take place till after the election of the next council president during the next term. And the other point I would make is it sets up a kind of a neat bifurcation. The senior member provision in the charter is for the convocation of the council initially, where in the absence of the clerk, the senior member calls the body together for its organizational meeting. And that's kind of a special privilege. And it has to remain because there is no vice president. At that point, there's not even a president. So I think you've got that set off as an official charter position for the senior member. And then you've got this new vice president to kind of be a permanent backup in case something happens that causes the president to be out for an indeterminate period.
Bacon?
So maybe in consideration of this, we should establish when that rule would kick in relative to the vice president. If it's not for a one-off, it would be 2 or more consecutive absences or something would trigger, perhaps. I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. So how would we want to amend that in the language? Does someone have an amendment?
It would be easier if I could see the language.
I'm the
Sorry.
same way.
It's in your email.
It's in my email? Okay. I mean,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may?
Yes.
Okay, just through the chair to Tessa, the president. I actually support this, but I support a little different way than everybody. I'd rather just have it appointed by the president. I don't feel like having an election. I'm not going to vote for it. If it's an election, I'm not going to vote for it. But if it's just appointed by city council president, then I'm good to go with it. But that's me. And in terms of the verbiage, if I may, Madam Chair, just you can tell me to shut up. But when these meetings get jammed up is when they get jammed up, we don't have language in front of us that we need to look at. That's stuff that's all got to be laid out before the meeting instead of us fumbling through phones.
I know.
This to me is not mission critical. I think it's a nice feature, and I think we should do it. So if I were to make my 2 cents, I would just say, let's just get a little framework in the next couple minutes and then move this on, because nobody has the language. You're not going to have the language. You're not going to have it tonight, so we can all prepare for next time. I really appreciate the comments of all the counselors in this regard, because it's really opened my eyes to some things that have to be done. I just think this makes things, reason I support it, and I'll finish here, is that it just, having a president, having a vice president, it's easier for the public to understand it instead of the senior member business. And the reason why I just want the president to appoint it, because we're already going to have an election, and then the city council, we have to have another election for city council president. Do we really need another election after that for the vice president? I mean, I think the city council president is appointing all the chairpersons, and there's no reason, in my estimation, why the city council president can't just appoint a vice president. Now, I know many disagree with me on this, but that's now, and so I'll stop there.
Thank you. I do want to say that one possible way of responding to this could be saying, following the election of the president, the city council shall then elect a VP by majority vote, who shall serve as presiding officer in an absence that extends beyond one meeting and shall represent. So it's one way of responding to that. And I agree with you, Councilor Bartley. I wish that I'd had the language beyond the conversation that I had. I did just send it by email to the two ladies of the committee so they have it in writing. And I do want to continue asking legal to get us the language earlier and in writing so that more folks can see it prior to a meeting, hopefully 48 hours before. Yes, Avakin and then Councilor Devine.
So along the lines of what you were saying in terms of initiating when they took over, I was thinking along the lines that when the president declares a leave of absence from the seat.
Oh, so not
For a
under
period
after
of
the
time.
election of a president, but it would actually be triggered.
No, I'm all that language I would leave alone. I'm in favor of electing people.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with the appointing of chairs, but I don't agree with the appointing of key positions. I think those should be elected by the body. But in terms of when it would kick in, the president will know if they need a leave of absence.
Correct.
If they'll be absent for more than one and it's just not a one-off, most likely. But in any event, even if they didn't know, if there was one and then it became it, they could still
So,
tell us.
so is the language that I put forward possible as an amendment? So who shall serve as presiding officer in an absence that extends beyond one meeting?
Well, I don't know. You could say it that way, but I'm thinking the president would know, and it should be sort of under their control whether they're looking for that person to step in.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe the president would like to.
Maybe, yeah.
weigh in.
I'm just saying that it's possible that they would not know, right? In emergency surgery, there are things that occur that you could not foresee, or maybe you could then not communicate. Yes. I'm sorry, I did.
No, that's okay. That's okay. No, go ahead.
no.
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry,
Or-
you were
I'm
next.
next, that's
My
okay.
bad. But I was going to specifically respond to that. I was just thinking, as far as wording goes, in the absence of the president, in the event of a leave of absence, that way maybe it gives the ownership of the president to make that decision. Like, I could be out for a month, and maybe I don't anticipate being out for a month necessarily, but I would still have like the ability to let someone know. I mean, unless I'm in a coma, and then I don't know. But let's not.
Well, then we could say or.
Right.
In
right.
dire
in the
emergency.
absence of the president due to a leave of absence or unforeseen emergency.
There you go.
I feel like that kind of covers all the bases. Thank you. Is Jeffrey doing that right now? Jeffrey, you're so awesome. I appreciate that.
Thank you. It is helpful to see like shifts in live, so appreciate that. Okay, just give me a second to read it. You mean or unforeseen emergency, Jeffrey? I think, does it say of or? Thank you. Okay, Councilor Devine?
Yeah, I was just going to
Counselor.
tell you that the language was up on the board. I don't know if Jeffrey can print that up if you make a final decision tonight. I don't know if he can print that up, so it'll be in the meeting tomorrow.
Yep. Partly, and
Yes.
we'll hear from
Go ahead.
the ladies here.
I just want to switch emergency to unforeseen circumstances. Or
Sure.
something
Yeah.
along those lines.
Yeah, I like that. I think it gets at it.
And I think you do want to say exceeding one meeting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're fighting with the other rule again.
You mean meeting, Jeffrey, instead of year? Jeffrey, instead of year, can you write meeting? Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Does that satisfy everyone?
satisfies me.
Okay. Does anyone want to speak on this topic? Okay, do I have a motion to accept the language and share it with council with recommendation?
Sure, motion to accept the language and share with council without recommendation.
With recommendation or
I'm
without?
sorry, well, I thought you said what?
With recommendation?
With recommendation.
Yeah. Would you second it?
I'll second it, but I want to see, if it requires legal form,
It's a rule change, so it doesn't require legal form.
so then we don't really need legal.
No, it was more that we were asking, help us create the language that will really work here, right? But I like the additions that we made as well.
Yeah,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Jeffrey, thank you so much
thank you,
for that.
Jeffrey,
That was
that's very helpful.
really, we're gonna remember this strategy for the future,
Well,
because this was really,
If I may, as a point of order,
yes.
please have it for us in writing. I don't like
Yes.
the strategy.
100%. Well, but what I do like about this, though, is even if we do have it in writing before, it was helpful to be able to make additions and then see what that meant when we put it in the language. Does it actually work?
Yes, I
But-
do.
I appreciate the
agree.
workaround.
I would also like
give
it
you
in
that.
advance.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's move forward to item 3.
Motion to take item 3 off the table.
So I have a point of order about item 3.
Okay.
This order was given leave to withdraw at the
was.
last city council meeting, so it shouldn't be before us.
Jeffrey, was it?
I wasn't at the last meeting.
It was. I remember thinking that I was surprised to see this on the agenda.
Okay. All right. Well, Jeffrey, do you want us to table it or just give it leave to withdraw?
It's not before us.
Like, what do we do with something that shouldn't be on the agenda? Do we give it leave to withdraw? Like, what is the motion there?
I'm not sure any motion can be made if it,
Mike
If
Bissonnette,
not really
what would
before
the
you.
motion be if we have something here that was given leave to withdraw at the last council meeting before it? It shouldn't have been sent here.
I'm sorry, the council's already given it leave to withdraw.
Yeah, before it arrived.
It no longer exists then.
Yeah. So then what do we do? What's the motion? Just ignore it?
Just skip it on the agenda.
Okay. All
I
right.
would, Jeffrey, I would just note the date that it was given leave to withdraw, and noted on this agenda, on these minutes.
Okay. So then we're moving to item 4.
Motion to take up item 4.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So this was from our 5/21/24 meeting. This was from Divine. Order the city council consider a rule addition to Rule 6C, decorum and speaking, adding the following words as a second paragraph. No counselor shall speak more than 4 minutes during debate. The president and/or the city council administrative assistant shall keep track of the minutes. A 1-minute reminder shall be given at the 3-minute mark during debate. We have the maker of the order here. Divine, do you want to start by just giving
Yeah,
us some
thank you
context to
for
the order?
putting this on the agenda. And this isn't to take away anybody's right to speak. What I'm trying to do is to prevent any one of us, quite frankly, from taking over the meeting. And that's why at these 10 o'clock, all of a sudden we have to ask permission for 10 minutes more and for 10 minutes more. And I think we look silly when we do that. So all I'm saying is, even Congress has a 5-minute rule. They can't speak more than 5 minutes. I'm saying people speak 4 minutes. They can certainly come around again if they need to speak again. But if you can't say what you need to say within 4 minutes, I just don't get it. And that's what I'm trying to do is get us so that we're not at 10 o'clock saying, can we have 10 more minutes? Can we have 10 more minutes? Can we have 10 more minutes? So that's my reasoning for it, not to blame anybody, but just to try to get us to that 10 o'clock rule.
Yeah, I think that it's really tricky that we created a meeting cap and we're still trying to figure out what changes need to occur and how we are comporting ourselves as city councilors in order to make that cap possible. And I think sometimes it means being more efficient with our time. I think other times it means being realistic. If we're starting a meeting with 99 agenda items, we should probably start as a first motion by voting to extend, rather than being surprised when we get to 10 o'clock and we haven't finished. There's no way you can finish a city council meeting when the agenda for the current meeting starts at 9, effectively, which is what happened 2 meetings ago. We did a better, job last meeting, but even so, we weren't able to get all the way through it. So I see this as a potential, you're trying to respond to that. Maybe there are other ways to respond to it as well, right? Trying to figure out how to be efficient with our meetings and end by 10. It's good for us and good for the public. This is one way of doing it. I'm interested in what people think about it. Yes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had one clarifying question for the maker of the order. Would this rule apply to just full city council meetings, or does that also?
Just full city council
Just full
meetings.
city council.
Because we don't have a 10 o'clock rule at
Right.
subcommittee.
Okay, I just want to make sure that. The second piece is that what I appreciate is the spirit of this, because I often feel conflicted as the president in only 6 months between wanting to balance giving everyone the opportunity to speak and also recognizing that we should be efficient. And if there's things that we've talked about in committee, do we really need to have that full conversation again? And so that's what I appreciate about this order, is that even knowing that we have a 10 o'clock limit, I was hoping that would be something that would motivate folks to perhaps not speak for as long and sort of condense the words that everyone's saying. I do think, for what it's worth, I think it worked for a little bit. But then when you fall behind once, you just kind of keep falling behind. And people, in my opinion, it doesn't really seem like folks are being mindful of that. And so, I believe Councilor Givner filed a very similar order to this in the first term prior to Councilor Devine on the council. And at that time, folks were very concerned about, is this trying to stifle speech? And, I think what we came up with as a compromise was, all right, well, we won't limit the debate, but we will limit the whole meeting in the attempt to sort of address that. And unfortunately, I worry that it may have improved some things, but it hasn't curbed our ability to talk. And so, as a president, I gotta tell you, when things are going on up there's a lot of stuff going on. So there's this part of me that's like, wow, all right, that's a lot. I'm also trying to keep track of how many times has this person spoke on this topic, because we have a rule related to that. And sometimes that can be hard when there's multiple people talking multiple times. So, I am definitely open to figuring out how we address this. I think that it would be nicer if we didn't have to follow a rule like this, but I also think that we do need to consider it. So, I probably talked for way longer than I should have anyway, but that's why we're in subcommittee. And thank you. I hope we can just figure something out.
I had one clarifying question for the maker of the order. It says no counselor shall speak more than 4 minutes during the debate. I could see that being possible to track if we meant at any one time. I went on Amazon earlier today and they have these hourglasses. You can get them by any number of minutes.
Yeah.
So an easy way to track it, if we wanted to do this, would be to buy a 4-minute time, hourglass timer. And when someone starts speaking, you just turn it over on the counter, and when the time is run out, you can say, "You're at time."
Yep.
So that would be one possibility. Although I don't think with that you can give a 1-minute reminder, because it's not as clear as that with an hourglass timer. But I was trying to think about something that could be easily done by the city council president without adding undue burden. If we're trying to track it over more than one time, like 4 minutes during an entire debate, I think that would be really hard to track. And I'm not sure if that's what we mean. So I'd love to hear your
I
thoughts
actually
on that.
gave Tessa a timer that comes down the minutes. It counts it down. And I'm not, like I said, if this is good enough for Congress, that they abide by a 5-minute rule, and they're reminded of that, I don't see why it's not good enough for us. And I'm not saying that if you speak for 4 minutes on a subject and it's still going on, that you don't have a chance to the second time to do that. I'm not trying to prevent anybody from speaking. I'm just trying to prevent the 2 hours of one subject. And then the next thing we know is it's 10 o'clock and we haven't done anything.
Okay. I think that we may need to clarify that by amending it to say 4 minutes at a time. That may be necessary. All right, Councilor Bacon.
So that's the note that I had written on the order, because otherwise it is a restriction.
Yeah.
So is the 3 times.
Right, but it's hard to track, I think, too. If it's during a debate, if you have to track how many minutes a person talked multiple times.
Right,
Yes.
right, but if I'm hearing everything correctly, if we said
Yeah.
no counselor shall speak more than 4 minutes at a time during debate,
Yeah.
they could speak theoretically for 4 minutes 3 times, given permission.
Right.
The third,
Because if you want to speak for a third time on the matter,
everyone has to vote.
you have to be given permission by the body,
right.
But, sorry to interrupt.
right?
3 times could be a half an hour each time, an hour each time. That's what I'm trying to
Right, but that
prevent.
hasn't happened.
Okay. All right. Did you have your hand up?
Oh, I also, well, yes, I wanted to add that I have been following what other city councilors do. And I thought of this because that is what Springfield doesn't necessarily, I don't think they have a limit on the time, but the council president uses his discretion to start a timer if he is aware that it's probably a hotly contested issue. But I don't want the president to have to use their discretion in that way. I think it's there's I'm following what other councils do, and there's a lot of digital time clocks, I will say. We're one of the few that doesn't use that. So either way, it can help us to know. Sometimes we don't know how long we're talking, and then you look and you're like, wow, I've been talking about this for 4 minutes. So but I'm getting ahead of myself because that's another item on the agenda. Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
I just want to share my concern. My concern is that if we start building in limits to debate, and then we have a body that's not open to letting a person speak a third time, then we are definitely limiting debate. And rarely, but not that uncommonly, there have been some really hot topics. And there's been a certain amount of complexity to the topics as well. And I don't want to see us making all these arbitrary things, 10 o'clock, 4 minutes, 2 times, to the point where we're more worried about getting out of here than we are about having robust debate and coming to hopefully the best outcome for the people we serve. So I have some concerns about that. I guess it would come out in the wash, so to speak, if we pass these things and we see how they go. I know the 10 p.m. at meeting end time is very popular with many. I personally don't like it, but I understand its popularity. But as long as it doesn't stifle debate, I'm okay with it.
Well, one of the things that I will say that our council doesn't seem to fully embrace or understand, a lot of councils around us have time caps. They almost never refuse to vote to extend. It's not a, well, guess we messed this one up. Done now. It's a, okay. Either things have been so robust that we needed to continue, we vote to extend. And often councilors don't just extend to vote in 10-minute increments. They vote to extend until the agenda is completed. Or they vote to, because the goal is that we need to change our behavior so we can be more efficient and hopefully not drag the public out to listen to our meetings until 11:30 at night. The goal is not to prevent us from, as a council, getting through an agenda and doing the work of the people. And we have had a number of things that have happened over the last 6 weeks where things that needed to go to committee did not go, right? And so that can't happen. We do need to figure out how to do the work of the people, even if there's a time cap. And if we don't do that, then we have to extend. That's, I think, something that, you know, we have to sort of get on the same page around. Or we'll have to revise the rule. The rule itself's not going to fix us. We need to fix us in terms of getting more efficient so that we can end in an earlier time and do the people's business, right? So
Unintended consequences.
yes, well, and I think this is trying to say to people, try to be efficient. Make your point, but can you try to make it under 4 minutes? You can speak twice without anyone saying otherwise. It's 8 minutes on a single agenda item, where often we go into meetings where there are 65 to 80 agenda items. It's a lot of agenda items. We could also, I think about that. Like, how many agenda items are we putting forward? Okay, Marcia Romboletti.
I just want to also reiterate that, you know, I don't think any of these kinds of orders are designed to stifle debate. It's just like this setting is the most appropriate setting for us to have a debate and have a longer conversation and to dive into some of the details. And I think sometimes what I've seen is that we, you know, a lot of those, it is possible for us to reiterate what we say and what we believe and why we're voting a certain way without necessarily repeating everything that we discuss at a subcommittee meeting. And I think that is a pattern that we do need to change. And, you know, when I knew that when we passed the rule change to change it to 10 p.m., it wasn't an unintended consequence for me. Like, I knew that was the potential, but I feel like something like that is what needs to change in order for us to start to change our behaviors. Like, the reason why we have subcommittee meetings is so that we can have a longer discussion and our constituents, they can get the brief synopsis at a city council meeting. But, you know, as a counselor, I also try to make sure that my constituents understand that we are discussing these things in greater detail at subcommittee meetings. So in order to shift the culture and the standing practice of like just talking without limit, I have full faith in us that we can get to our point in 4 minutes. And if it's 4 minutes at a time, I'm even better with that. Especially because counselors can speak up to 2 times on their own. And if you really can't get to your point in 8 minutes, then like I keep very closely track of the time. Like, I have to when I'm up there running a meeting, and like there are counselors who talk for like 15, 16, 17 minutes, and I have to believe that we're better than that. So I support the intent of this, and if that means changing to 4 minutes at a time, I don't think we need to necessarily come to an agreement tonight, but it's something that we have to figure out. We are capable of, so many other municipalities are capable of having a 3-hour meeting without constantly going over. So thank you.
And I want to name too, because Council Bartley always reminds us of this, we're also allowed to suspend our rules at any time. So if somebody really has a great reason, they're in the middle of something, they've brought slides, they really need to present something to the full body, and they need more than 4 minutes at a time, we can vote to suspend the rules to allow them to do that. Because there may very well be a time or two where that needs to occur. We always have the capacity to do that. What we're trying to do is say business as usual, right? What should we be attempting to do? If for an extraordinary circumstance, that's when we vote to suspend the rules. All right, any further conversation on this topic? I see Linda, I see Bartley, and I see, Councilor Bacon, and then I see Councilor Devine.
Thank you. So I just have a little different perspective about the city council meetings than the committee meetings. There's a lot of committee meetings. They're kind of a moving target. People have to track them through the city website in order to pay attention if there's a particular item they're interested in. But the public more tunes into our full council meetings. So I think particularly when it's a complex matter, one where you want the public to really have a good understanding of it, if it is somewhat controversial or complicated, I think those issues, whether they're addressed in committee and then again at the council, is not a misuse of time. Because I think that is where our public is most engaged with us. So I just have a little different perspective on that. I do agree with the idea of not doing the entire committee meeting over. Because, I mean, when I was chairing one committee, I won't name any names, we would have a meeting, there would be a vote in committee, I'd come to city council, we'd do the meeting all over, and the votes would change. So, you know, I'm somewhat sympathetic to that argument. But I just want to be very careful of that. And I just don't want to be doing anything. So for me, if we were going to start doing something like this, then I'd want to get rid of the 10 p.m. Do you know what I mean? If we're going to restrict this, restrict that to save time, well then let's not make cap on the end, cap in the middle, cap on who's talking. I mean, because some of this does feel like it's directed toward one or two people.
She had a hand first.
I just want to tell you that maybe you think the public tunes in. Trust me when I tell you, they tune out when we just talk and talk and talk. And this isn't directed at one person.
Let's keep it to
Okay.
the chair, please.
And I can remember way before I got back on the council, people would make a motion to let somebody talk 3 times. It never got denied, never, okay? And all I'm saying is you have that rule, and people could talk for an hour and then another hour. All I'm saying is, to me, if it's good for Congress, it should be good enough for us.
Thank you. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I have, again, a slightly different take. So I have no problem with the 4-minute thing if it's a suggestion, a recommendation under Rule 6. I have no problem with that. But it's hard for me to believe when I hear the total exasperation coming from makers of these orders saying, now, can you imagine if I
Let's
had
keep
done
it
that?
civil, please.
Madam Chair, can you imagine if I had done that on a microphone in a meeting and I would have got called out by City Council President? Can you imagine that? Now, you're not calling her out, but this
I just did.
This
I
is
said let's keep it civil,
consistent
please.
when I have to sit next to that person.
Thank you.
So
Can
it's
we keep it moving, please?
I can, but it's not fair when I have to deal with that nonsense.
I've already addressed it.
And
Thank
that's not
you.
admonished. Well, address it to her directly. Shucks. So, but when I hear total exasperation coming from certain counselors about the length of the meetings, the amount of time, the mumbling, if you think there's no mumbling going on, there's a lot of it going on. Oh, jeez. Oh, well, okay. I'll take it. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. But that to me is the genesis of this particular change. We want to turn it off because I don't want to sit here anymore and listen to a certain counselor or two talk. So if there's going to be a suggestion, I got no problem with it. Second point is that the chair runs the meeting. Rules are pretty clear. Chair can say, Counselor, respectfully, you're getting repetitive. Do you think you can wrap it up? I think any counselor here, wow, you're right. Madam Chair, can I have 1 more minute? It's something along, something like that. Third point, there are certainly rules in Robert's rules a point of order, can we move the question? That stops the debate. Madam Chair, point of order. Okay. Madam Chair, can we move the question? I have a motion to move the question, Councilor Jordan, or Councilor Bartley. Bartley, you all done? I guess I am. I mean, those are some of the techniques you can use instead of making hard and fast rules. And then fourth thing, do we really need have the city council president monitoring a clock with everything else that's going on? Do we need to have a city council president looking at a clock? Okay, 3 minutes, 40 seconds, 3 minutes, 40. Is that, I mean, the council president using her mind to sort of run the meeting, follow what's going on, get ready for the motion, get ready to call the roll, say the right things. And it's not easy. And now you're going to add another layer to the position? I don't know. Again, I get the spirit of it. I think we can all do better. I will try to do better myself. I will vow to do better. I think all of us can vow to do better. Yeah. And, but if somebody's going to have a speech, I've never heard, I mean, the hyperbole is unbelievable. It doesn't go on for half an hour or an hour. That has never once happened. Now, Joe came real close a couple of times to going about 20 minutes, and I've done it myself. Okay, that's wrong, but that was way back in my early part of my career. Don't do it anymore. So I hope we can, I mean, I get the spirit of it, but I hope we can just sort of move beyond this hard and fast rule. Thank you.
I appreciate it. One of the pieces around rules is that we're allowed to change them with a majority vote. It means that our rules can change more frequently than other things. I think it's okay to try something, and if it doesn't work, then we change the rule. I think that's true of the 10 p.m. cap. I think we need to try it for at least a few more months. If it's not working, it's not working, right? And then we address it. Right, we're attempting to see what we can do to have an efficient meeting, and it's not an easy ask. Have an efficient meeting, but also have all voices heard. One thing that I appreciate about what Councilor Bartley said is that what I'm imagining is that the clock, if we do end up going that direction, is much less for the council president as it is for the speaker. So the speaker can have a sense of, this is how long I've been speaking, I should get myself to a place of conclusion. That's what I'm hoping happens. The goal is not to have more, combative, the council president saying, you're up, and the person saying, I want to keep speaking. That's not the goal of this. The goal is for the person to say, how can I say my piece in 4 minutes? All right. Do I have a motion to approve this with the appended language? It would be that no councilor shall speak more than 4 minutes at a time during debate. The president and/or the city council administrative assistant shall keep track of the minutes. A 1 minute reminder shall be given at the 3 minute mark during debate.
Go ahead.
Yes.
So I would prefer that the president does use her discretion, and if somebody is going over long, it's brought to their attention. And I don't think it has to be like exactly to any amount of time. But I do think if somebody's making the same point for the third time, to me, it's totally within order. And that's why we have a president, to keep the order of the meetings. And I just think we're making too many hard rules trying to change behavior. And I just think I'm not convinced it's the best strategy.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
So as the president for the last 6 months, I get mixed signals on what is in my authority and what is not within my authority. And I have been told that I can't change seats because it doesn't explicitly say it, but I've also been told that, I can use my discretion on certain things. So part of the reason why I do like that there's a rule is because I am of the opinion that maybe, folks would feel better if it was written in writing. That being said, I would entertain a motion to table this and give a few months for me to use my discretion to curb conversation in a way that I see fit. Because I believe that if I do that, I will still be met with pushback. And I will still be told that I don't have that authority. I would like to be proved wrong. I would like to see that the body goes ahead with it. But I don't believe that the body is going to let me do that, to be honest. I will try. But if folks believe that this shouldn't be a rule that's written in writing, then I can try to implement it on my own with my own discretion. I hear mixed signals from everyone on what I have the authority to do, what I don't. And this isn't about me. I don't want to be president forever. I can't be. I can only be for 3 terms. And I don't know what's going to happen next term. Who knows what will happen at all. But this is about like efficiency. We have not demonstrated that we're capable of that on our own right now. So I'll continue to implement some new changes and use my own discretion to reduce the time that we spend discussing items. We'll see how it goes. And, for that, I would definitely be okay with tabling this for now. Thank you.
Councillor Bacon.
So since we're into talking about the rules that are written, so what has arisen in the last 6 months with the rules that are written is we've gotten into debates over what those rules mean. And so the more rules we're making, it appears that we are opening the door for more debates about what they mean, are they limiting, what is their intent, et cetera, et cetera. And so far, I don't see that these debates and discussions have created better will on the body. And so if you go to Robert's Rules, which is the guiding document if our rule is silent, Robert's Rules speaks greatly and in great detail about the authority of the president to keep the order of the meeting. And also, I'm going to start calling this the Greenie motion because it's always Howie who makes the motion to move the question.
Yeah.
And he understands what it is, and he always uses it appropriately from what I've been observing. So you do have members of the body also who are utilizing those rules to help to move the meeting along as well. And so I think the more we educate, because we do have a lot of still pretty new counselors on the council, and the more people educate themselves about our rules and also Robert's rules, I think the better off we'll be. And I know I've been one giving you pushback because I read the rule literally that says, if I ask you if I can move, you can say no. But I don't read the rule that you can tell me to move. So, but I totally agree with your authority to say no if asked. So I think it's pretty clear. But in any event, I will make the motion to table.
Second.
No debate.
Yeah, no debate. I just wanted to say one thing, but, all right, all in favor?
Aye. Motion to take item 5 off the table.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, this is 5/21/24 divine ordered that a digital time clock be provided to the president of the city council in the city council budget for the purposes of keeping time for public speaking and for our city council rule addition to Rule 6C. On the question, anyone have any thoughts?
Do you want to ask?
Do you want to?
Okay, thank you. The only reason I filed this was because of the public now gets a chance to speak for 2 minutes. And we all know people that are not used to getting up to that microphone when the president has to say 30 seconds. It throws them right off. They're not professional speakers. It throws them right off whatever they're trying to say. A lot of people do read their phones and what message they want to do, but the general public really, I think, by saying you have 30 seconds left, throws them out quite a bit. That's the only reason I filed it.
Would it make sense to amend this in order to, is it public speak or public comment?
Public speak.
Public speak, and then to just remove everything after that, given that we tabled the last item? I would make an amendment to revise this motion to remove the language after public speak.
I have a suggestion. Why don't we just stop it at time And
Yeah, actually.
then if you change what it's
Okay.
for, you don't have to
Yeah.
change the rule.
I like that. Okay, so Vacan's made an amendment to remove all the language after time and to amend the motion in that order. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Excuse me.
Aye.
Oh, under,
And then the president can certainly instruct the people that are going to get up to speak to watch whatever clock is up there. And when it counts down to 30 seconds, that means they only have 30 seconds left.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
No.
Does the city council, I have a question, does the city council president have discretion to use it, for example, to keep time? I've seen a number of councils, not so much tracking how individual people speak, but at the beginning of an order, just how long we've been on that question. I've seen that be helpful. For example, that allows the council to know we've been on this item for
I think.
35 minutes.
For the purposes of keeping time, kind of
Yeah.
justifies that.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion?
I'll have it tomorrow.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the order as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to take up items 6 and
Second.
7 as a package.
Oh, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I can just interrupt real quick, that last order, was that creating a new rule, or was that just instructing that a time clock is going to be purchased?
Yeah.
Yes. Not a rule change, just a use of a tool for the president.
Okay, should we be ordering that from the budget, or?
No, I'll buy it. We have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one.
It's like the gavel, BYO gavel,
Okay.
BYO clock. Yeah.
On that note. Okay, so items 6 and 7 together. So the first order here is from April of 2023. This was an order that was co-signed by Israel Rivera, Councilor Givner, Maldonado Velez, Marisha Ramboletti, and Jenny Rivera. Ordered that Section 34 of the Holyoke City Charter be amended to establish a police commission by virtue of a special act in accordance with the provisions of Articles of Amendment, Article 2, Section 8 of the Massachusetts Constitution. And then item 7, this was a letter that was received in August of 2023 from the city solicitor. It is a letter, read the provisions of the charter impacted by implementation of a police commission. And I think my goal tonight is for us to begin to name what we are hoping that police commission would look like so that the law department can begin to create language that we can then look at. I'd like to hear from Councilor Vacan and then from Councilor Devine.
So we have a procedural problem here because we've only been given a copy of the order. The original was sent to Public Safety, so that is the committee that actually can act on this order. The strange thing is that the accompanying order was sent only to Charter and Rules and not to Public Safety, which gets into all the variety of things that would be affected by it. So I think to make things clearer, we should send item 7 over to Public Safety, which is where the original order is.
Yeah, a quick clarifying question.
Yeah, I do have
Letty?
a clarifying question.
Right.
Is the original going to have to come back to this body or this committee at any point?
So there, according to the list in, if I may, Madam Chair.
Yep.
In item 7, there are 2 aspects that would affect the charter. There are 3 aspects that would affect ordinances. And there is a 6th item regarding appointment of supervisor of police radio and signal system patrolman in the police department, a special act. I don't know what that means, but these are all things that would be affected by it. So if public
Yeah.
safety decides to move it, they would have to send it to both this committee and ordinance.
Which they can't do because of copies. It'll have to be original orders in order to be acted upon.
Well, as a practical matter, if they move forward with recommending to the council that we establish this commission, then there would have to be other orders filed to make it happen, to implement it, which would then have to be filed relative to this committee for 1 and 2 and ordinance for 3, 4, 5, and I don't know what you do with 6. That might come to here too, if it's a special act, because that would be a charter issue.
Solicitor Bissonnette, number 6 in the list, in the letter, would
Yep.
that go to charter or is that ordinance? It just says special act and everything else says city charter or ordinance, but that one just says special act.
Yeah, that would be, on a home rule petition, that would be eliminated. That's the one that talks about the special position in the police department. Yeah,
Police radio,
yeah,
And
that was
signal.
created by a special act and the home rule petition to establish a police commission under section 34 would have a provision that would strike that, so it would no longer be relevant.
So given that it was sent originally to public safety, although parts need to be here, does it still make sense for us to discuss here the changes in charter that may be brought here?
Is that for Mike? Or is that for us?
That's from Mike.
As a matter of law, you have to change a charter to create your police commission, and that would go under the same organizational structure as Board of Public Works, Fire Commission, Electric and Light, Water Commission. So there's already a structure in place to fit that into Section 34. As you saw outlined in the memo, there are other things that have to happen, but none of those happen unless you want to change the structure to a police commission. And to do that, there needs to be some delineation of responsibility, duty, and powers. And I think that's really your discussion, and I think that's really where the rubber's going to hit the road on how this is structured.
One of the things I know that I had reached out to Solicitor Bissonnette several weeks ago because this had been copied to charter and rules, and there are different paths forward where nothing would need to be done. If this was a purely advisory board or a commission that has no judicial power, then that's something that we could just handle ourselves in ordinance, right? But if we actually want it to have real power, then of course it would require a charter change and a home rule petition. So I think one of the questions, and maybe it's about us also then reaching back out to public safety around taking up on their end, if it's just sitting in their jacket, is moving it forward. I have done some research looking at the way that the Board of Police Commissioners is structured in Springfield, which is a comparative municipality to us and local. And I think that there is a really good basis there for us to talk about what might be here. And I know that when I reached out to Kelly Curran, who's the Director of Human Resources, there's been a number of pieces that they have been working on in terms of being able to work with the police department and focus on internal controls and HR issues that have been going through the police department. And the police commission would create another layer of checks and balances and sort of support that relationship between human resources and the police department. So I think that there's interest in seeing us move forward with creating a police commission that has power, and that would create a need for a charter change and also for a home rule petition.
but we have to wait for a safety committee.
Okay. Councillor Devine and then Councillor Sullivan.
Yeah, regardless of what you do tonight, I'd like a copy of the letter from the city solicitor, provisions of charter impacted by implementation of a police commission.
It's Jeffrey,
Right here.
what he sent
Can
out.
you get that for me?
Yeah, what Jeffrey sent
If you-
out.
Here's, hang
I
on a
think it's in
second.
here.
I'll bring you over. It's in the packet.
It's not in this one, but
It's not in that one?
No, I don't have it either. I did it from my printer at home. Thank you.
Probably find it somewhere in your archives.
Okay. And the other thing I would say, if we do get serious about this, I was a fire commissioner, and that is a well-run commission.
Right.
The 3 members are appointed by the mayor, and they have an unbelievable administrative assistant in Dale who knows civil service. There's a lot of little things that you have to know about a commission. So it just depending on what you do, I'd like to, if you're going to do it, and I'm not sure I'm convinced to do it yet, but to definitely model it by the fire commission.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, that we already have a fire commission that is successful, and
Absolutely.
we have in a way an outline for how to also do this for police through what we've already done in the past, which we have experience with. Councillor Sullivan?
Yeah, so this would be questions for Councilor Bissonnette. If I understand this correctly, the first thing we have to do, right, before anything, is get it on a ballot for maybe not the next election. I don't know if we can move it that fast, but we have to get it to Boston to get it approved to be put on the ballot before anything else happens. We can spend all the time we want in ordinance, public safety, anything else, but just a simple question to create a police commission, that has to get approved by the voters first, right?
I didn't know that.
Or by the state.
By the state, Mr. Sullivan. Just by the state, because
Just by
this
the
is your
state.
charter change. So it's internal under the Home Rule Amendment,
Okay, so it doesn't have to go on the ballot.
would not have to go on the ballot, right?
So it just has to go to Boston.
And that would change the charter.
And
That would allow the creation. And
allow
then,
the creation. So anything.
and then
anything
you have
else-
to decide by ordinance
Right.
what's
And-
in it.
And any other discussions are a waste of time until we get that approved. So why don't we, and it seems like a very simple question, to create a police commission, why don't we just get that going and get that sent to our state rep and our state senator and head to Boston?
Right. But
That's,
if I may, through the chair. Through the chair to Councilor Sullivan.
before you do Counselor Bacon, could I hear from Attorney Bissonnette on that?
Okay.
Did you finish, Mike? Do you have more to say?
Well, I think Counselor Sullivan's right when he says that you don't need to do anything else other than get the state's permission. If you get the state's permission to insert the creation of a police commission, the Home Rule Amendment could say, much as we're doing with the treasurer's change, is to say that the responsibilities of the police commission will be designated by ordinance, created by ordinance. So that gives the council the ability to fashion. It's really a question of which one you want to do first. Because what I would not suggest is hamstringing your ability to make some changes by ordinance rather than having to go back through a home rule petition. So if you had a whole, let's say, ordinance-linked home rule petition about what this commission can and can't do, what its powers and duties are, that would prove difficult to change in the future if you wanted to administratively do something simple. So I think there's value in knowing how you want it to come out, but there's no necessity for it. You could go ahead and say, this is the route we're going, police commission, but then you're gonna have to decide what's in it. Do they have authority on civil service, hiring, firing? Are they mimicking the fire commission's power? Those are issues you need to decide at some point.
Okay, thank you.
So the only point I was going to make through the chair to Councilor Sullivan is that this order was sent to Public Safety Committee to act on. It was copied to this committee, so we don't have the ability to act on it. And I think maybe, and I can't remember exactly why it got sent to Public Safety, but I think it might have been sent there because if we say it's recommended to the council and theoretically the council wanted to move forward with it and it was a home rule petition, the city council can vote that. You know, and so you don't need charter and rules. So I can't remember all the discussion, why it went to public safety, but based on what discussion took place at that time is why it got sent to that committee.
Okay, it seems like the next move is I will reach out to the chair of public safety to have that conversation about putting this on an upcoming, public safety meeting. And then I think out of that, either the full city council can do a full vote for a home rule petition and full council. But also I think there'll probably need to be companion orders that are new, that are put in to change certain pieces in ordinance that will need to occur as well.
Right, but a lot of other things have changed since this was filed too, with the functioning of that whole state body that was implemented too, you know? And the actions they've been taking relative to the police.
Okay.
So there's that whole other state system that got put into place as well, so. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yes. Councilor Devine?
Yeah, just real quick. The one thing that the Fire Commission didn't do was tell firefighters how to fight fires. And my only objection with a police commission is we shouldn't be telling them how to be police and what they go through.
Thank you. All right, so I think the next steps are pretty clear, and it makes sense at this point it's like a little bit tricky because it's a copy. We could just effectively give it leave to withdraw here and push for it to be taken up in public safety if it's a copy. Or we can table, but even tabling it keeps it here so that we can discuss it, but we can't act on a copy. Which is why in general I've been, I think as a council, we've gotten, to the point where in general we don't send things as copies because it kind of appears in a jacket as work to be done, but then can't be acted upon.
Right.
Councilor Sullivan, you had a question?
No, I was just gonna say, maybe you should just send it back to public safety.
Can a copy be sent back?
Send it back,
Well, it's already in there.
Right.
They have it. It's in
Excuse me?
public safety.
When was it sent to public safety? Just curious.
Hang on.
Probably that same day,
It was sent,
Yeah.
April 4th.
April 4th, 2023.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I will say that one of the pieces of this that's a little, so I think we may want to have just a motion to leave to withdraw for item 6, but for 7,
I would
this
send that
letter needs to be sent
to public
to public safety as a motion because it was sent to the Charter and Rules Committee
Only.
only.
So,
We're the only one who has this currently, so it should be sent to public safety.
so I'll make a motion to give item 6 leave to withdraw because it's a copy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to send item 7 to public safety to go with their original copy of item 6.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's the agenda, yes?
Yes, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.